Okay, so we're going to show the GitLab integration, how using the GitLab as a central dashboard, people can do their complete cloud operations and CI/CD and all these steps. So we'll start with this one. This is the core GitLab bread and butter. It's a source code management. Then we'll show continuous integration. We'll show the package registry. We'll show a Docker package registry. Then we have the, I've not set up this one yet, but this should be pretty straightforward. It's like static analysis. But this one is like continuous delivery stuff, which will be like deployments and all. This would be the DevOps. Continuous delivery also basically means running the whole pipeline and all that. And then we basically have DevOps, which is like, for example, deploying it on AWS infrastructure and so on. Monitoring and all, I think we'll show the integration from cloud native tools, which is basically CloudWatch. Sure, so this is what we'll show. So what we have is that this is the GitHub project repository. This is the first step, the source code part. So we have this code, which is basically a simple Python app. Now, as part of this project repository, what we have done is that we have actually set up a CI/CD pipeline. The way that is done in GitLab is by using this CI YAML file. So we have actually set it up so that it will first run the unit test, then it will run a build, then it can do a deployment in dev, and then it can do a deployment on stage. Just for this demo, what I've done is that everything I've set it as manual so that nothing gets triggered purely based on a commit. So that's that. So, and then you basically see, if you go to operations part, you actually see environments. Now in the environments, you'll actually see the environments that we have set up from AWS. So what we have done is that, so you have GitLab, and then there is Duplo Cloud in the middle, and then there is AWS. Duplo Cloud is this digital DevOps bot, which provides the abstraction on top of AWS. And in this bot, before we came to GitLab, we set up the base infrastructure, like for example, the servers and the load balancers and the RDS and all that kind of stuff, the core infrastructure part, which GitLab doesn't have. So once you set that up, and then you come over here, and then you give the API token and everything to GitLab, and then you start operating over here. Right. So now what you can do is that what we'll do is that let's go and then basically do a simple deployment. Right. So before we actually start and make changes and stuff, let's see what's actually deploying the dev environment. So we can basically go and check over here. So let's take this URL, then we'll put it over here, and then we do this. So it basically says it has CI/CD demo. So then what we'll do is that we'll go over here, and then let's make a code change. So we'll come over here, and we'll just click on a file which has that message. So what we'll do is that we will edit this file. And then we'll basically say showing the CI/CD demo today. So we'll do that, and then we'll basically, for demo, we'll put some message. I'm just going to commit it into master. So this gets committed into master. And then what we'll do is that we will actually go, and then we'll actually run the pipeline. So we have 4 phases in the pipeline. So if you see over here, so we have the unit test, you have the build, and then you have the deploy. So what I'll do is that I'll straight away start from the build job. And so what this is supposed to do is that this is basically going to pull the code, and then it is going to generate the Docker image for that application, and it is going to push it into the package repository. Okay. So while that happens, so we can see the logs and stuff, and it's going to build the Docker image. So we want to basically see, so what we have over here is that, so now we are showing the package. So we already saw the code. We triggered the continuous integration, the build step, and then we are going to show the package registry. So we go over here, and we click on packages, you click on container registry. And then what's going to happen here is that this is the container registry, and then this is where we have the various builds. Each build is basically tagged by a SHA. So what we have done right now is that we are actually running a pipeline where we are running the build job, and let's look what is the SHA. So we are actually running it for this particular SHA. So this particular SHA will basically show up over there once the build is done. So let's just quickly see. We can go here. So the idea is that first it will do unit test, then it will do a build job. And once the container is built, we are actually going to go and deploy it in the environment, right? So this is actually doing the build. So let's just wait while it does the build. To make the recording shorter, I'm just going to pause the recording. Yeah, so what's happening is that this particular build job has finished, and then it has actually pushed the image for this particular SHA. So now if we actually go to the package repository, so what we'll see is that we'll actually see the SHA that was just generated, the Docker image. So you see just now, this is the SHA that has been generated, right? So now let's go back to the second one. What we'll do is that now we have the build image, we're actually going to go and deploy it. Okay, so we're going to click over here. So now let's actually go and deploy it in the dev environment. So what this is going to do is that behind the scenes, it's going to make the Duplo API call, and then it will actually go, and then over here, it will change this image from 2737 whatever into the latest SHA which we are operating. I believe it is 299 something. Okay. So again, it's actually going to, so what this one, you can actually basically see that it's going to make an API call. And these are all scripts that we write basically, right? So it's going to make an API call, do the deployment, then it's going to run a bunch of tests to make sure that the containers are all running and everything is healthy and so forth, right? So yeah, so let's just wait for this to actually finish the deployment. So I'll again pause the recording. Oh, or actually, this is not such a big job, so I'll just let it be. You can always fast forward it. So it's checking out code and stuff. So this is really the main Python file which we wrote, which actually does the deployment. So what it's doing is basically that it's actually saying that this is the name of the service and this is the name of the image that it is deploying. It's actually 26BC7. So you will basically see that once this thing has been deployed, actually it must be deployed right now, 26BC. So if we go back, you will actually see that C26BC has been deployed, and you see that it's pending. It's actually going to come up. So what it is doing right now is that it is actually waiting for the application to be up. Okay, it says that it is done. The job has actually succeeded. Now, if that is the case, let's go back to the URL and just check if it actually did something. Right. So see, this is what we had said. This was the code change that we make. Now we have this over here. Right. So okay. So this was the second phase. So what you could actually do is that you could go back to the pipeline, and then once this is done, you can go ahead and actually update this one too. Now on an operational level, now let's say you're not actually doing a deployment, you actually want to go and check a bunch of things. So what you could do is that you could come over, you can come to the environment, and then you can actually click, and let's say you want to dig deeper. Now, for example, we want to get into the container, look at the process space and all that kind of stuff, what's happening and everything. So of course, those functionalities are not over here and you want to like dig deeper. So what you would do is that you would come over here, you would click on this. This will actually take you into your dev environment. Okay, so now you have your application and this is the container. You want to debug something, you can click over here. Okay, you get into the container. You can do a bunch of things Like this is like the second level of debugging and stuff. Now, let's say you want to look at the cloud native monitoring. What you want is that you want to basically look what is the metrics, like what's going on with my application and stuff. So you can come over here, you can click at the metrics, and then you'll get like a bunch of metrics. Like these are your ELB metrics, your EC2 metrics, your database metrics, memory utilization, CPU utilization, and all that kind of stuff. So basically the idea is that like all the features which are available and like sort of up to the mark, you would use it over there. And whatever the next level of op stuff, you could actually do it in the Duplo Cloud portal. And then if you really need to get into the guts of the system, you could probably contact an infrastructure engineer who's your support personnel, and then he can actually go and look deeper into the AWS, right? So most of the stuff, daily activities and everything, you can look over here. Whatever functionality you don't have, you can actually go and look at the Duplo Cloud portal, and then the next level you can go to AWS. Now, when you actually bring in things like signal effects and so on, you could now, for example, let's say you want to look at the logs, detailed logs of the application. Simple logs of the application, you can actually just get it over here. But let's say if you want to get into deep logs, so what you could do is that you can click over here, and then you could actually go to Elasticsearch and then look at the logs of this. And along the same lines, you would actually also go to signal effects for monitoring and so on when we set it up. So that way you have the complete ecosystem in a very application perspective. So what do I mean by application perspective? What I mean is that you log in and then you're operating at a project level, which is really your code. You do your deployments and stuff, and then you get into the next level of infrastructure. That is also very application specific because you're working in the application space, basically, right? Then you can get into the other pages. There also you can talk in terms of the apps, and then you can actually get your app logs simply by clicking this one. Only when you actually get into the AWS is when you sort of start losing context in terms of the application, because it's sort of a flat structure, and then you actually need a DevOps engineer to make your way through and so on. But the rationale and the expectation is that across majority in GitLab, a little bit on Duplo Cloud, and a little bit of other systems and so on, you'll be able to do whatever you want. But the core of the functionalities is like behind the scenes, and it's all hidden from you. That's basically the demo. Thank you.